Welcome to the Ingrid Norton channel. Today I'm going to do a book review on Spare, written by Prince Harry. I found the book to be genuinely good. It was really well written, I would say. And there were two parts of the book that really stood out to me. And so I want to read you those two little sections. I can't legally share more than 10% of the book with you. So, and these are fall well below the 10% mark. So I'm going to read two little sections too. One is on it starts on page 330. No, that's not it. One starts on page 357. It's section 62. And then there's also one that is on page 338. So I'll read you the 338 first because that happened right before the wedding, and then the other story comes afterwards. So this one is page 338, section 46, or chapter 46, I guess. It says, the next day, Meg had a text from Kate. There was a problem with the dresses for the bridesmaids. Apparently, they needed altering. The dresses were French couture, hand-sewn from measurements only, so it wasn't a big shock that they might need altering. Meg didn't reply to Kate straight away. Yes, she had endless wedding-related texts, but mostly she was dealing with the chaos surrounding her father. So the next morning, she texted Kate that her tailor was standing by at the palace. His name was AJ. This wasn't sufficient. They set up a time to speak that afternoon. Charlotte's dress is too big, too long, too baggy. She cried when she tried it on at home, Kate said. Right. And I told you the tailor had been standing by since 8 a.m. here at KP, referring to Kensington Palace. Can you take Charlotte to have it altered, as the other moms are doing? No, all the dresses need to be remade. Her own wedding dress designer agreed, Kate added. Meg asked if Kate was aware of what was going on right now with her father. Kate said she was well aware, but the dresses and the wedding is in 4 days. Yes, Kate, I know. And Kate had other problems with the way Meg was planning her wedding. Something about a party for the Page boys. The Page boys? Half the kids in the wedding are from North America. They haven't even arrived yet. It went back and forth. I'm not sure what else to say. If the dress doesn't fit, then please take Charlotte to see AJ. He's been waiting all day. Fine. A short time later, I arrived home and found Meg on the floor, sobbing. I was horrified to see her so upset, but I didn't think it was a catastrophe. Emotions are running high, of course, after the stress of the last week and the last month and the last day. It was intolerable, but temporary. Kate hadn't meant any harm, I told her. Indeed, the next morning, Kate came by with flowers and a card that said she was sorry. Meg's best friend, Lindsay, was in the kitchen when she turned up. Simple misunderstanding, I told myself. So that really stuck out to me just because it was really surprising that if it's your own wedding, and I'm this from a woman's perspective, obviously, like, you're in charge, you make the last calls, because it's your wedding day. It has to be your way. It's like your one day of your lifetime that's like super special, right? And so the fact that someone else would say, no, you got to change your bridesmaids' dresses, I'd be like, heck no. In a meaner way than that, right? I'd be like, not happening. Like, it's got a my color and it's got a my design. And let's say it was ugly. Well, then I'm just going to have ugly bridesmaids' dresses, right? Or flower girl dresses, whatever it was. Bridesmaids' dresses. And so I feel like that was really surprising that Kate would think herself technically so important as to try to take over any decision-making of another woman's wedding. It was just surprising. But what was really good too is that she owned up to it. She realized that was stepping past the boundary mark and apologized. So anyway, so we all make mistakes though. Like, we all do stupid stuff without thinking, but I'm glad that she was able to say sorry. So that was just a really interesting story. The other part is on page 357, and it is section 62. And this, actually, was this after? Yeah, this is after the wedding. So it says, Willie asked, referring to William, Prince William, Willie asked for a meeting. He wanted to talk about everything, the whole rolling catastrophe. Just him and me, he said. As it happened, Meg was out of town visiting girlfriends, so his timing was perfect. I invited him over. An hour later, we walked into Knotcott, where he hadn't been since Meg first moved in. He looked piping hot. It was early evening. I offered him a drink, asked about his family. Everyone good. He didn't ask about mine. He just went all in. Chips to the center of the table. Meg's difficult, he said. Oh, really? She's rude, she's abrasive, she's alienated half the staff. Not the first time he'd parroted the press narrative. Duchess difficult, all that, I'll just say BS, but it says the whole word. Rumors, lies from his team, tabloid rubbish. I told him so. Again. Told him I expected better from my older brother. I was shocked to see that this actually ticked him off. Had he come, there's a different word, I just used ticked. Had he come here expecting something different, did he think I'd agree that my bride was a monster? I told him to step back, take a breath, really ask himself, wasn't Meg his sister-in-law? Wouldn't this institution be toxic for any newcomer? Worst case scenario, if his sister-in-law was having trouble adjusting to a new office, a new family, a new country, a new culture, couldn't he see his way clear to cutting her some slack? Couldn't you just be there for her, help her? He had no interest in the debate. He'd come to lay down the law. He wanted me to agree that Meg was wrong and then agree to do something about it. Like what? Scold her? Fire her? Divorce her? I didn't know, but Willie didn't know either. He wasn't rational. Every time I tried to slow him down, point out the illogic of what he was saying, he got louder. We were soon talking over each other, both of us shouting. Among all the different riotous emotions coursing through my brother that afternoon, one really jumped out at me. He seemed aggrieved. He seemed put upon that I wasn't meekly obeying him, that I was being so impertinent as to deny him or defy him, to refute his knowledge which came from his trusted aides. There was a script here, and I had the audacity not to be following it. He was in full air mode and couldn't fathom why I wasn't dutifully playing the role of the spare. I was sitting on the sofa. He was standing over me. I remember saying, "You need to hear me out, Willie." He wouldn't. He simply would not listen. To be fair, he felt the same about me. He called me names, all kinds of names. He said I refused to take responsibility for what was happening. He said I didn't care about my office and the people who worked for me. Will he give me one example of... He cut me off, said he was trying to help me. Are you serious? Help me. Sorry, is that what you call this, helping me? For some reason, that really set him off. He stepped towards me, swearing. To that point, I'd been feeling uncomfortable, but now I felt a bit scared. I stood, brushed past him, went to the kitchen, to the sink. He was right on my heels, berating me, shouting. I poured a glass of water for myself and one for him as well. I handed it to him. I don't think he took a sip. Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this. He set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out. Come on, hit me. You'll feel better if you hit me. Do what? Come on, we always used to fight. You'll feel better if you hit me. No, only you'll feel better if I hit you. Please, just leave. He left the kitchen, but he didn't leave Knotcott. He was in the sitting room, I could tell. I stayed in the kitchen. 2 minutes passed. 2 long minutes. He came back, looking regretful, and apologized. He walked to the front door. This time, I followed. Before leaving, he turned and called back, "You don't need to tell Meg about this." "You mean that you attacked me?" "I didn't attack you, Harold." "Fine, I won't tell her." "Good, thank you." He left. I looked at the phone. A promise is a promise, I told myself, so I couldn't call my wife as much as I wanted to. But I needed to talk to someone, so I rang my therapist. And thank gosh she answered. I apologized for the intrusion, told her I didn't know who else to call. I told her I'd had a fight with Willie. He'd knocked me to the floor. I looked down and told her that my shirt was ripped, my necklace was broken. We'd had a million fights in our lives, I told her. As boys, we'd done nothing but fight. But this felt different. The therapist told me to take deep breaths. She asked me to describe the scene several times. Each time I did, it seemed more like a bad dream. Excuse me. And made me a bit calmer. I told her, I'm proud of myself. Proud, Harry? Why is that? I didn't hit him back. I stayed true to my word, didn't tell Meg. But not long after she returned from a trip, she saw me coming out of the shower and gasped. Haz, what are those scrapes and bruises on your back? I couldn't lie to her. She wasn't that surprised, but she wasn't at all angry. She was terribly sad. So that's where that little section ended. But it was really shocking to me, that section, because it just showed like a viciousness of Prince Harry. And I say viciousness because there are multiple stages. Like when you get in an argument with someone, there's like the tone, you've got the words, but then it can get physical. If it goes past the words, there's some issues there. And although they had a history of like fighting as kids, it's different when you're like an adult having a physical altercation with another adult. That's more like serious. And the fact that Prince William like was the aggressor and started the physical altercation was just really unprincely. I mean, and I really mean that. Like, that's not the type of persona he obviously like gives off, because we only see him doing all this great charity work, which is awesome that he does that. But the fact that he'd be so physical, like, it makes me wonder, like, if he's like physical with his own brother over, you know, a spouse issue, like, is he harmful to Kate? Like, is he abusive to her? Or is this like one of those weird one-timer things? But like, it just seems so shocking. That was like, I think, one of the most shocking things of the whole book, just because it blasted my perception of what Prince William has always given off. And we only ever see like the glamorous side of what being a prince is like, doing charity work and going to different functions and smiling and make people thinking he's all nice. And, but we all have, you know, those, you know, our worst moments, right? And we're bigger than our worst moments. But it just made me feel very proud of Prince Harry for being able to control that anger and to rein that in. It just takes, I feel like, more self-control for him, just because he's also had the history of being in a war zone where when you're in a war, you're called to do things when you otherwise wouldn't normally do things that you do in war. And so you have to be able to have discipline to control the anger. And we really see Prince Harry, that mature side of him, having gone through the military and having that discipline, especially with a brother who now we are getting like a fuller picture of who he is as a person, and that his temper is quite short. But, you know, there's lots of people that have short tempers. But it was just, I would never in a million years have, or half a million years, like, thought that William was capable of that, to hurt his sibling to the point where he's like bleeding and there's bruises. Like, that's horrific behavior, especially for someone that's in that role in society of like being a leader, showing others how to live their life in a very noble and gentle way. And that was nothing noble about beating up his brother. So that was also a huge thing in the book that stood out to me. But I really loved the book. I feel like it was really eye-opening. And one of the other things that really stuck out to me as well was at the beginning of the book when he mentions when Princess Diana died, the night that she died, now King Charles, who was Prince Charles at the time, he came into the room and told the news to Harry, and he didn't even hug Harry. Like, Prince Charles, or now King Charles, did not hug his own son in the moment when he delivered the news to say that the mom had died. Like, there's like some deep emotional disconnect within the royal family, apparently. And it's sad. It's heartbreaking. Like, gosh, like even the coldest person you think would just give at least one hug. I mean, we all show like grief differently, for sure. But you'd think a hug would be called for. Like, really. Like, one hug. Just one. So, I was just like, that was a total shocker. But also, the fact that Prince Harry, for many years, didn't believe that Princess Diana was dead. Like, even after she was literally gone and buried. That he, like, had... And just thought, you know, maybe she's in hiding. Maybe she's just trying to get away from paparazzi, because they'd been constantly hounded, and he'd seen that growing up. And he thought, oh, Mummy's just hiding. She's going to come back, come get us, live happily ever after. And it was, I think, can't remember how many years it was, but it was many years before he realized, no, she's really gone. And, that was just really, it's heart-wrenching, like, that he had to miss out on those years with Princess Diana. She just seemed like a really great woman. But just those little pieces of information were just really eye-opening. So I felt like, excuse me, got a cough going on here. I felt like it was just really eye-opening and definitely like worth the read for sure. So when you have time, and if you don't have a ton of time, like just do the audio version. So like while you're folding laundry, you're like reading, like listening to the book. I have the physical copy, but a lot of times that's how I read faster. I just like do the audio version while I'm doing laundry. Here we go. My laundry basket that I still have to fold. But such a good book. Highly recommend it. Get it. Like tomorrow morning, Monday. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.